since I just watched the movie Challengers, I thought I'd talk about the movie. So yeah, that was my little segue. I have been a fan of tennis for a long, 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 long time. Back in the 90s, during the era of Andre Agassi and Pete Sampras, that's when I started watching. I remember because I grew up in the Philippines and I moved to the US in 2003. So I would watch those games late at night, the Grand Slams. Yeah, Wimbledon, US Open, Australian Open. I watch every single one of them. I love kind of the whole game. When I moved to the US, I also played a little bit, and that's why I was showing you my little trophy. I wasn't that great, but I think I was good enough for like a local competition. Here it says I was a consolation winner. I didn't win, but I was like in the semis, and it was like, there was a bracket system. But enough about me. This is about the movie Challengers. So this movie is about a love triangle with the actors. The actors in the film are Zendaya, Josh O'Connor, and Mike Faist. So basically, it's a story about Tashi is played by Zendaya, and she is kind of in a love triangle between two friends, Art and Patrick, played by Mike Faist and Josh O'Connor. So, it's set against the backdrop of the tennis world. And, but what's interesting is it's really so refreshing to kind of see this movie done this way. I think, because, for me, I say it's refreshing and unique and such a fresh take. And that's relatively speaking based on the movies that we've seen sort of recently. I would say in the last maybe 3 to 5 years. The last big movie that I saw that was a little bit about tennis, although it's different, was King Richard. And that was with Will Smith. And when was that? That was in 2021. So that was 3 years ago. But it was different. It was about the life of Richard, which is the father of the Williams sisters, Venus Williams and Serena Williams. So, that was more of a drama. And, that really was set against the backdrop of tennis. But for challengers, even though tennis is sort of just the backdrop here, it's also kind of like right in front of you. There's like a tennis, it's kind of like, I don't know. It's such a wonderful metaphor that it's a movie about tennis, but then it's not really about tennis. It's about the human story. It's about the love story. It's about this complex characters that are so ambitious. They are in the world of tennis. They come from different perspectives, and yet, they have such unique personalities too. And yeah, I would say, okay, let me start. Let me try to structure my rant over here. This isn't a review. This is more my comments, my opinion, my takeaways about the movie Challengers. First of all, first reaction, I absolutely loved it. I would say that in terms of the movies that I've seen this year, this Challengers and Dune is the other one. So far are the two that sort of made it to my list of favorites this year so far. And there's more that I haven't seen. There's more that's coming up, in the future, right? But let me just talk to you about the things that I like about it. I was already kind of alluding to the whole concept of, tennis and a drama, and it's not really a rom-com, but it's like a love story. It's a love triangle / drama set against, sports, tennis. And what's for me, it's really unique in a way because the last time, as I've said, the last time I've seen a movie that's about tennis or related to tennis was 2021. But it wasn't even, the same. I think the other few times that I've seen movies set in the tennis world that were a little bit more like a love story. Well, there were two that I can remember. There's Match Point with Scarlett Johansson. That was all the way back in early 2000, 2005. And then before that was Wimbledon with Kirsten Dunst and Paul Bettany. So, in a way, it's been a long, long time since we've actually seen a drama, a love-oriented movie that's set in the world of tennis. So 2024, that's why I say it's sort of fresh, because it's been a while. It's such a unique take, from what we've seen in the past few years, right? It's sort of different. It's interesting because tennis is also one of those sports that we see it all the time on television. For those who really love it, there are enthusiasts and everything. We get excited by it, but for common people, for others, I don't want to say common people, but for others who are probably not into it as much, they just couldn't care less, right? So actually, I know someone who thinks it's boring, but I'm looking at you, Mr. I can't say the name, but somebody I know tells me that the game is boring. Absolutely not. I definitely disagree. I know it takes 3 hours sometimes, but the game is just so gripping, right? How many Agassi and Sampras games have we seen before that lasted, 3 hours? And then, in a different era, like if you grew up in the Federer, Nadal era, it's also a usual thing to see matches that last 3 hours. So anyway, it's not boring at all. So for me, one thing I would say, okay, and the story on the plot and kind of the uniqueness of it, it's definitely one of the reasons why I'm so interested, because it's just a unique take. And I want to say that this movie Challengers, the slogan I would use is make tennis sexy again. It definitely made tennis sexy again. So remember that. Challengers, make tennis sexy again. Okay, you'll thank me. Sorry. Okay, so that's the first thing, is the whole concept, right? Secondly, I think in terms of the promo and PR leading up to the theatrical release in April, there's definitely a lot of kind of hook. Definitely the love triangle. Like, what is this going to be about? Like, before seeing the movie, I was thinking, what is this movie going to be about? Is it going to be, because, there's three of them, there's two guys. Is it going to be a LGBTQ movie? But you know what? It was just done so masterfully. Like, it kind of, it was such a unique take on a love story, a conflict, basically there's three characters and kind of their emotions and feelings towards each other. It's so masterfully done. It was just so beautiful, in my opinion, kind of just how it was done. And I'm gonna talk about more details in a bit. I just want to kind of organize my thoughts a little bit, to talk about the different things that I like about it. So let me kind of move past the whole point of the tennis world, and that it's a love story, the love triangle. One thing I would say, what about the love triangle? The last time I sort of kind of, got, the last thing I can think of was the movie The Dreamers, 2003. For some reason, I see there's a little bit of, I don't know, it made me think of that movie from back in the day. Although, in this case, for Challengers, the kind of scene between Art and Patrick when they were kissing, and when they're when they're in the room with Tashi, Zendaya's character, it was a really brief moment that happened at an earlier point in their lives, but to me it was still like, okay, it's so different. Like, if you're a person who grew up in the 90s, like, and there's like two people of the same gender kissing, it will be like a different reaction, right? But for here was like, okay, that was kind of like the nuance of this story, that we're all different human beings and we're capable of having emotions, we're capable of having attraction, and it's not a big deal. It's not a big deal. Okay, I'm not sure if I'm making sense, but anyway, going back, why I love this movie so much. Secondly, I talk about the concept. Secondly, it's from a genius. Is the director is Luca Guadagnino, who is one of my absolute favorite directors, and I loved him ever since Call Me by Your Name. I don't recall seeing any other movies he's done in the past, but when Call Me by Your Name came out, I remember I watched this with my partner in the theater, and there were only a few people in the theater, and we were the only ones. There's just probably like just a handful. But anyway, and then the movie became so big, and I loved it the minute I saw it, and I just fell in love. It was so romantic. Oh, and I've become a fan of Luca Guadagnino ever since, and I've also become a member of the Peach community, basically supporting Timothée Chalamet. And then back then it was a love story between Oliver and Elia, but I don't want to, I digress. So, like there's a big topic on that. It's one of my absolute favorites of all time is Call Me by Your Name. It's definitely in my top 5 ever. So that's why I love Luca so much. And he also did Bones and All with Timothée, a couple of years ago, and with Challengers. There's a lot of, you've seen some memes and pictures, some storytelling. There's similarities. They're comparing kind of the dancing scene with Elio in Call Me by Your Name, and he's wearing blue, and then in Challengers, Zendaya was also dancing and she's wearing blue. But you know what? At the end of the day, I think ultimately what I can say about Luca's directing style, he's such a genius. He's a visual storyteller. He's a visionary. I think he's somebody who really knows what he wants, and he has this wonderful ability to kind of invoke nostalgia. And there's craftsmanship for sure. There's expertise, to kind of use the different aspects of filmmaking and making into a cohesive output or product. But the ability to really kind of invoke nostalgia is one thing that I can say that is unique about him. He shot this on film as well, but overall, the use of music, for instance, right? And then kind of like, in Call Me by Your Name, it was set in the 80s, right? It definitely invoked that sense of nostalgia. For Challengers, this movie was set in 2019. It actually is not a linear storytelling. It's kind of like tennis, so there's a big metaphor for tennis as well. The story goes back and forth between present time, which was 2019, and then to various points in the past. 13 years ago, 2006 was another point in the movie. And by the way, spoiler alert, if you haven't seen this, I'm talking about the movie, including things that you might not want to hear if you haven't seen it yet. So it goes back and forth in terms of timeline, present time, and then going back to 2006. That's basically when the story started. Not the movie, but in terms of the story of the 3 people. So back then in 2006, the 2 male characters were competing in the US Open Juniors Doubles Championship, and they were good friends. They grew up together. I think they went to boarding school together. And at that time, they're good friends, and they're also competing for the junior finals together. And you can already get a sense of kind of their characters back then. Like with Josh was like, oh, I can throw it to you. But anyway, so going back to kind of what I was talking about, it was Luca. I will watch anything that Luca does. If Luca decides that he wants to use an iPhone tomorrow and shoot a movie about frogs or vultures eating a dead squirrel on the side of the road. I know it's very graphic. I'm sorry. We just had that issue a while ago. I will watch it. I am an aspiring filmmaker myself, and you should check out my videos. I did a little mini short film where I tried to recreate Call Me By Your Name, scenes from Call Me By Your Name. But Luca is definitely one director that I really, admire. So yeah, I think I don't know what else to say. He's just a genius. His craftsmanship, his approach, in terms of storytelling, it's just brilliant. So that's the other thing, the reason why I was excited about this. All right, let me go into the next other points. I think I talked a little bit about this earlier too. The music, the score. It was really interesting because I wasn't expecting it. I kind of have a point of reference from Call Me By Your Name. I kind of remember all the songs. I have them on Spotify on repeat over and over, right? Some of the songs from the 80s and like Sufjan Stevens and all that. But this time it's a score from, I think, Atticus Ross and Trent Reznor. And I believe they also did a score for Bones and All, which was the last Luca movie, and also The Social Network. Let me just say this, the score, it definitely added so much to the quality of the final thing. It added so much. It added such a wonderful layer to make the storytelling even more brilliant. It is already brilliant to begin with, but with the, score, it really helped in terms of conveying that intensity. I'm sweating right now, but like the tennis, it's sports, it's a physical game. There's a lot of intensity. You see that, going back to the visual storytelling earlier with Luca, you see it in the visual, right, with the way the cinematography works. One time you will see like an angled shot, and then the next you'll see almost like a point of view of a ball, and then you're sitting in the bench, as Zendaya watching kind of the two, and then you have also the fans watching back and forth. There's just so many different kind of takeaways, point of views. They've captured it. I haven't seen anything like that before. That's sort of a tennis related movie. So I know I'm going back and forth between Luca, which was my second point, directing, why I love this movie so much, and then to the score. I want to just say big props to the score. I have it on Spotify repeat now. I'm pumped. I use it for my workouts, and I don't know, I might pick up tennis again. Maybe I can get another. I'm not bragging, by the way, and I'm not that. I'm not that great. I love it. I would say I love it. I love playing tennis. I miss it. It's been a while since I did play. But I really, really, truly enjoyed it. I would say this movie, if I decide to play again, I would have to give credit to the movie for inspiring me to come back to the tennis world and play again. So there you go. So third is the score. I love it. All right, what else? So I talked about the challengers. The other thing I would say, this should probably have been my first, I'm just a big fan of Zendaya. From a long time. Not the Casey Undercover. I didn't really watch that. But Euphoria, The Greatest Showman. Like in the beginning, she was still kind of starting. Like maybe that was like over 10 years ago. I remember her in The Greatest Showman. Well, of course, Spider-Man, Euphoria. I would say this is probably the best role. Other than Dune, this is the best role to date for Zendaya. I would say Dune and Euphoria are probably close second. But, for Challenger, she is the main lead. She's the executive producer as well. So this is a Zendaya-led film. Once again, Zendaya, I'm such a big fan. I think she's a triple threat. I've been saying this over and over in the past. She's a great actress. She knows how to sing. She knows how to dance. she's young, and not that you know doesn't mean that if you're older doesn't mean that you don't have the same opportunities. But what I'm saying is, she's just starting. I mean, she's already at the peak of her career, and there's just so much more that I think she can accomplish, and I can't wait to see a lot from her. I know she will do so well in this career because she's got all those wonderful, wonderful things going for her. I mean, she's probably one of the biggest stars to date, and she will continue to become even bigger in the future. Like I grew up in the 90s, not grew up in the 90s, but like I've been watching pop culture starting in the 90s, and I kind of remember the whole era with Julia Roberts. They're like the big celebrities back then, and then you get to the next generation of stars like Reese Witherspoon and all that. I think this is it. It's Zendaya, Timothée Chalamet, is all these young people are the people in Hollywood right now. So yeah, it's the wonderful, wonderful cast led by Zendaya. I'm such a big fan. I mean, all the fashion also. I mean, I can't stop talking about Zendaya really. But the two other actors too. I mean, Josh O'Connor. I have been watching Josh O'Connor for a few years now. Also, from I think he's just so versatile. The kind of roles that he's able to portray. I mean, he was Prince Charles in The Crown, and then he's done. What was the title of that movie? Where he played a gay. No Country. I'm gonna have to Google it. Josh O'Connor movie. I think it was No Country. Come on, my computer is not working right now. Okay, let's take a look. Josh O'Connor movies. Okay, there you go. Sorry, God's Own Country. Okay, there you go. And by the way, did I already mention I was kind of dripping because there's a lot of sweat in that movie Challenger. So I just worked out and I'm sweating. So I thought I also will capture that. I want to be in with the theme of high intensity sweat infused movie called The Challengers. And I was gonna say also, I know I'm talking about Josh O'Connor, but on Zendaya, once again, if she decides to produce or star in a movie shot in an iPhone about frogs, once again, which I don't know why I'm thinking about frogs lately. Maybe I want to make a movie about frogs, or like vultures kind of eating oh, my phone's ringing. I'm not gonna pick it up right now. I will watch it. Like, I will watch a Zendaya movie shot in iPhone about frogs or vultures eating dead squirrels on the side of the road. I know it's graphic, I'm sorry. But I am such a big fan of Zendaya. Love her looks at the Met Gala. Just wanted to say that too. And please check out my Met Gala parody, my looks for Met Gala this year. It's just a fake thingy. I wasn't invited. But I want, I like to make fun. Oh no, okay, I have to keep going. Josh O'Connor. Okay. Yeah, he's such a talented actor. Can I just say that for this movie, I think he was such a standout to me because there's something about it in him that kind of makes you like, oh my gosh, I hate him so much. Like, because just the way he taunts, Mike Faist's character, and he's eating like a banana and like the smirk and like, he slept with, Zendaya in the movie. It's like, and by the way, like the stinkiness, like, I have to say that like he looks so gross because he's like, and it's so effective that he was able to convey this character that sleeps in the car, that doesn't take shower, and you can almost smell how stinky he is in the movie. But then it's like you don't care, like okay, that's still that's still pretty hot, like. So anyway, yeah, I guess it's just that character of Josh that's kind of like, on one hand, you want to hate him, but then at the same time, there's like a charm and charisma that makes you wonder and makes you kind of root for him in a sense. and makes you understand at least kind of what he's going through. And you know, like the emotions, you know, at the end of the day, these two guys are competing for Tashi's attention, but they also have you know, a lot at stake. You know, it's the thing, it's the thing about it is like the use of tennis as a metaphor. You know, it's more than a game, and there's so much more that's at stake here. And what happens when, you know, the game really intertwines with your personal lives. You know, it's such a profound. I remember feeling after watching the movie, feeling so, oh my God, wow, that was kind of like a deep, you know, profound, you know, hit. You know, there's like a nerve hit that it was so deep and like, wow, 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 wow. And then the ending, I cannot think of, because I was thinking about it like, okay, you know, like as I was watching it, you know, there were things that I have in my mind that I was questioning it. Like for instance, when they were in the 2006 timeline and they were playing the, you know, juniors, and basically the premise was whoever wins will get Tashi's number. You know, so that's, so I was wondering, you know, how would the story go? Who would get the number? And then I had my suspicion that, you know what, it was gonna be Josh. And I was right, because, you know, in the beginning, it was already established in the film that she was already married to Mike, or what's his name? Art. So anyway, sorry, I can't remember which one's playing which. Art and Patrick. Okay, one of those. So yeah, I don't know what I was talking about. So all right, so forget it. I'll remember it later. So Josh Connor, okay, that was, so the actors. The other reason I think it was such a wonderful ensemble. It's all well acted. I'm a big fan of all the three major, you know, actors, the leads, and Mike Faist as well, which I remember from his Dear Evan Hansen days on Broadway. I have to look at my old playbill if he was the guy who played Coder Murphy when we watched Dear Evan Hansen actually on Broadway a long time ago. You know, I like to keep those playbills, and sometimes I realize, oh my gosh, it's this person that was playing it. So all three, and I think we're gonna see a lot more on Mike Faist, and I think this is a big break for him. So just to wrap it up, for this movie, I absolutely loved it. Wonderful concept, brilliant director, amazing, you know, score and music that really conveyed the emotions that pumped. Brilliant acting. The editing is also, to me, work. You know, some people complain about the back and forth, but to me, it didn't really bother me. I actually liked it because each time you go to a certain point, maybe going back, it's sort of, you know, like peeling another layer that adds to the complexity of the characters, and also it adds more to the, you know, to the story. It sort of kind of, you know, it goes forward, it moves forward, even though you go back and forth in time. I think it's brilliant way of the tennis metaphor too, that you go back and forth, that you're balancing. I love the ending. My interpretation of the ending, like who won that game, like, but you know what? It doesn't really matter. I think, like, you know, I just know that it was leading to that point of how crucial it was. Like, you know, at the end of the day, like, you know, there was such a transformation in each character, and each character, you know, went from point A to point B. Even with Mike as well, he was kind of trying to find that motivation to be competitive, to stay competitive again, and at the end of the movie, he found it. And yes, it had to do with kind of how Josh's character was taunting him, and you know, they have this secret language, right? You know, and they're talking about, you know, put the ball on on the racket if you slept with, you know, Tashi, and he did it in the end, and that kind of like You saw it. I saw it. I saw kind of this transformation in him, the drive. And then, so the other, I guess, something that I've read in terms of people complaining, and I didn't even think about it at the time when I saw the movie, was the only criticism that I would also think, after thinking about it a little bit more, was maybe there wasn't much sort of exposition on why Tashi is the way she is. Because, we kind of saw her as a very strong, almost controlling type of person, right? But it doesn't explain why she was the way she was. I didn't think about it at the time, but after, seeing other people talk about it kind of might say, okay. But to me, in the end, it didn't make sense, because for what it was able to deliver in the movie, it was enough for me to really love it, and there's enough in the story. I mean, the movie was over 2 hours long as well. So overall, I think those are my thoughts about Challengers, the movie. My question is, when is part 2 coming? There you go. So thank you so much for watching this video. Let me know what you think about the movie Challengers, and please don't forget to like this video or subscribe, and I'll see you again next time. Bye.